Today we have a StansberryInvestor.com exclusive. First Majestic CEO Keith Neumeyer speaks for the first time following the silver squeeze. Shares of the company were the most heavily shorted among the mining sector, with short interest 22.26% of the float, and 549 million of total dollar volume is sold short. Keith, thank you for this industry exclusive. I appreciate you giving me the first interview following the silver squeeze.
Great seeing you again, Daniela, and it's very topical, obviously, what's gone on over the last week or so.
Absolutely. And you're joining us from beautiful Costa Rica. Very envious of you right now. But I want to start by getting your thoughts, because the stock, just crashed through $30. So where was your head and what were you thinking when this was taking place?
Exploded through $30. Yeah. I actually don't like when I see stuff like that, because I always think about the investor, the retail investor. And because it's market aberrations like that, whether it's on the negative or the positive, where a lot of people do get hurt, and you'll note that something I'm proud of. There was no insider trading during that period of time, because I had a blackout in place and still have one, because I just think that times like this. We just kind of have to take a step back and really look for some stability. I'm a bull on silver. I think the stock going through $30 is obviously nice to see, and it's good for a lot of people. But and I think at triple-digit silver, I think the stock will get back up to levels like that, and probably even much beyond that. But for it to happen in a single day, I don't think it's that healthy, personally.
It's interesting to hear you say that, because I thought you were, maybe rejoicing and happy, and a lot of silver investors felt like the day had finally come, but it was a short-lived moment. So here we are, we're back down. Do you think it happens again, or where do we go from here,
Well,
Keith?
the positive side of this whole thing is that the millennials, I've got 5 kids, three of them, I guess you can classify as millennials. And they, only know the market, the silver market or the gold market, because of me. I had one of my daughters last year asked me, should she be buying Bitcoin? And I probably should have said yes, but of course I said no. Buy some gold or silver, because I have a comfort level there, and I understand that a lot more. But and my youngest daughter, she's 8 years old. I make sure that she plays with metal, right, as part of my routine. Because and she gets fascinated. She has her own gold coin that she knows where it is, and she asks to look at it every once in a while, and it helps her kind of just ground herself to real value. And I think that's important. And so all of a sudden you get the Reddit and the Robinhood phenomenon that occurred, and all these millennials just go, "Oh my goodness, what is this? What is silver?" And then they start their due diligence. And maybe they came in at the wrong time, maybe they paid too much, or whatever the case may be. But it woke them up, and now we're getting a ton of emails, a ton of questions about silver now that we would never have received from this particular age group. And they're looking at silver. They're saying, okay, what's silver used for? Solar panels, electric cars, computers. This call wouldn't be possible without silver. Oh, my cell phone. Oh, this. Oh, wow. Look at where all this metal gets used and consumed. And then they become interested long-term investors. And I think that's what's occurred, and that's what gets me excited.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. It's definitely brought a new energy to silver. And you are one of I believe, the sole miner that actually has a bullion store. Can you reveal or share any insights about the sales volumes that you're seeing, and what are the hottest products? Because we can get a hold of, small silver coins here.
Yeah. So, that business is something that I put together just over a decade ago, because I just, I was, we started it off as a bit of a gimmick. We would just produce our, some 1 ounce coins and hand them out at shows, and people would say, "Hey, can I buy some of these?" And they go, "Oh, okay, well." So we started producing them, and so we put together that whole side of the business. And but we never expected it was really going to be huge. Like, I think our revenue, on an annual basis, might be $5 million or something. So it's barely a line item, in our financial statements. But we do it because shareholders want to own our silver. It is our silver. We mine it ourselves. We ship it to a mint, Scottsdale or Sunshine. They do most of our work, and they're great products. And in March of last year, when silver collapsed, as you know, and then all of a sudden, over the next 3 months, silver exploded to $29 an ounce. We got wiped out of our inventory. So we spent 6 months rebuilding our inventory, and I thought we had quite a lot in our vault, but it got wiped out in 48 hours. We had 2,700 orders. Never ever experienced that before over a period of 48 hours. Something in the order of 3.8 million or $3.7 million in revenue over two days, and we were charging fairly substantial premiums. Because I was trying to slow down the sales. We were at 28, and then I got 29, and then 30. Then, Jill from my office said, we got to move this to 35 because we're going to run out of inventory. And boom, I put it to 35. We ran out of inventory anyway. So now the website shut down. We're in discussions with the mints and trying to reestablish some inventory. So we've got some inventory this week, but we're trying to get some of this volume out the door before, because this is not a full-time job for people in our office, and for them to do 2,700 orders, we were having to bring in part-time employees just to pack all this silver up. So it's quite the ordeal. It's very exciting, but not expected in any way.
And you had capped it at 200 ounces a client, right?
Yeah, 200 ounces per customer per month.
Wow.
That's right. Yeah. So a lot of small orders, 2,700 orders. That lots of small orders.
And let me just ask you something on that, because I'm hearing a mixed things out there about, there's really just a shortage on the smaller coins, but you can easily get 1,000-ounce bars. Is that true, Keith?
You have to line up for it. I don't know where you're going to go buy a 1,000-ounce bar. They're not that easy to come by. The 1,000-ounce bars are reserved for the commercial part of the business. So, most of the production, quite honestly, goes into 1,000-ounce bars. Because these goes into computers and industry, and 70% of all silver gets consumed in industry. So, but you can't just simply walk into a bullion store and buy 1,000 ounces of 1,000-ounce bar of silver. They're not available. So I understand what you're saying, but the commercial guys do get the priority for sure, because Sony's, Tesla's, the Apples, they need their metal to produce products. So the banks are going to supply them first with the metal, and the retail guys are the last in the line.
Keith, you mentioned that a positive from all this is that more people are interested in silver. Would you not say another positive would be that this topic and debate about silver manipulation is revived? It's almost become less taboo to talk about silver manipulation. A lot of folks out there saying it's finally exposing the truth behind silver manipulation, because the inflows that we're seeing in ETFs like the SLV, where are they sourcing the silver to meet demand? What do you make about this?
Well, it's a joke, actually. So, over a period of a couple of days, the SLV added something in the order of 110 million ounces of silver to their ETF, and there's no hoard on the planet of 110 million ounces of silver. Period. It's just not there. So I would love someone to explain that to me. So what they did, as far as I can tell, and based on discussions I've had with people, is they just went into the paper markets, and J.P. Morgan or whomever, it doesn't have to be J.P. Morgan, but they're always seemingly infamous on the other side of these trades. But whether it's HSBC or whomever it was, shorted them paper silver and capped it so it wouldn't go any higher. And then once they filled the SLV, then they came in and drove the paper price down, because they don't want to get people too excited, because it's silver price keeps going, the millennials are just going to keep riding this thing like they did with GameStop and some of these other things. So they look at these short squeezes and they're absolutely paranoid about it. So the silver market is a pretty small market. It's only about $20 billion market. So for them to move it around at will, it's pretty easy for them to do. And it's a real shame that the regulators just stand by and allow these shenanigans to go on. But now, what's PSLV going or what is SLV going to do? So, they have fiduciary duties to try to find that silver somewhere. How long can their shareholders put up with them holding paper and not physical?
So is that the real issue, Keith? Is that there's just too much paper silver out there? Is that the issue?
For sure, absolutely. Yeah. No, the knock against mining companies is that we do not have a proper pricing mechanism for the product that we hold very dear to our heart, and it takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get silver and gold out of the surface of the earth, and it takes a ton of energy, and it's a dirty business. We do our best to supply industry, with this very, very critical metal, but we get paid next to nothing for our efforts.
You mentioned $100 silver. I know this has been a forecast of yours for a long time. You've been criticized for it, but you still stand by it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it only possible if more miners don't sell their production forward? It was something you did back in March of 2020. You were criticized for it by the industry. But is that the only way to get to $100 silver?
I don't think so. I believe it's going to be ultimately the investor that drives it. The 70% of consumption, the industrial demand, it goes up modestly every year, particularly now with electric vehicles and solar panels. But it's a very small uptrend, and you could look at some of the stats out there. But on the interesting side, we do see supply dropping. We're at 4-year lows now in mining production. We'll see if mining production turns around in 2022 or with COVID getting behind us. But that investment demand fluctuates between 10 to 20%, and you can go back 20, 30 years to look at that. And the market is so tight that an extra 10% demand from one buyer, like the retail buyer, can accelerate prices very dramatically, unless they're able to cap it with paper like they did this last time. But if there's a consistent amount of metal being taken out of the market, the banks can't handle that extra demand. And I suggest to the Reddit groups or the millennials out there, stack some silver. Go buy yourself a couple 100 ounces of silver and put it away. Because if everyone did that, that would move the price.
You were definitely spot on when we spoke back in November. You had alluded to the gold silver ratio dropping drastically. When we spoke at the time, we were way over 100. Now we've come back down to 67. Are we headed lower?
Well, you know me, right? So you know the answer to that question before
it's gonna blow up.
You asked it, right? But yeah, look, I thought the mining ratio is the most shocking ratio there is. That's 8 to 1. So, please explain to me how the physical market can have an 8 to 1 ratio to gold and silver, and you're trading at approximately 70 to 1 in the financial markets.
So for every 8 ounces of silver mined, Keith, it's 1 ounce of gold?
That's right, exactly. And that's shocking when you're trading at 70 to 1. Even Sir Isaac Newton in the 500, when King Edward was trying to price the sterling, Sir Isaac Newton said, 16 to 1 is the natural ratio in the Earth's crust. It's amazing. They actually knew that way back then, but they did, I suppose. So that's the natural ratio according to the scientists. So we're actually mining less than the natural ratio.
So I guess my question is, how does this play out? How does this continue now? So do you think the silver squeeze is behind us, Keith, and it doesn't happen again? Or could we see it pop up again? Or would we see it maybe happen with gold the next time?
I'm optimistic. I have to be, right. So I've been in the mining sector for 35 years. I think if I wasn't optimistic, I'd probably, couldn't manage running a business like this. But, I just, The millennials are a strong group of investors. They're proving themselves, and they're pissed off, right? And they're going to move markets. They're pissed off at people my age. They're the baby boomers and all the politicians, and obviously the criminal activities that some of the banks are constantly involved in, and all the shenanigans on the trading side of things, and they're seeing all this stuff. And the power of the internet is educating a brand new entire generation of investors, and they want to stick it to the establishment. And I think that's great. I'm all the power to them, because
does that change your positioning in the company? Like, ever since this happened, does that cause you now to take a step back and think, okay, we need to do things differently or prepare for another silver squeeze?
We're going to try to build our inventories up, for sure, to hopefully be a little bit more prepared for the next big run on silver. It's going to take a few months to get our inventories back up, but increasing investment, trying to increase production. If I'm not sure how much you want to get into details about on the silver consumption side, but there's just simply not enough silver being produced to supply the energy needs of the human race. And it's a huge, huge problem that people aren't really taking. Some are now realizing it, but for the most part, it's still kind of buried, and no one wants to talk about it. But we need much higher metal prices. The miners need much higher metal prices for us to supply, the whole new Green Deal, electric cars, you name it, to get to where we're going to go as a human race. So, I think the millennials are understanding that, and I think that silver could be the trade of the next 10 years.
And what happens if Elon Musk just puts out the word silver? Could you imagine?
Yeah, I know. It's just like he's now talking about cryptocurrencies. But
well, just on that note, I want to make this comparison though, because I know you're a very private person. You're not really on social media. You keep to yourself. But you were already seen as the poster man for silver. But you even more so now. So kind of what Michael Saylor has done for Bitcoin, people are dubbing you almost the messiah of silver. I don't know if you've seen what's happening on the internet, but how do you take on that role? Are you comfortable with that?
I do see it, and I get people around me who feed me this stuff, obviously, and I try not to let it get to my head. I take it as a compliment. I've been running, two back-to-back very successful mining companies, and I've been involved in silver now for 18 years, 19 years. And I'm very vocal, as you pointed out, and I will continue to be vocal because I have particular views on the supply-demand fundamentals of silver, which a lot of people just don't simply understand. And I spend a lot of my time trying to educate people on silver, and as I said, I think it's really the most important investment that you should have in your portfolio, and so only time will tell, of course. But I'm pretty sure I'll be vindicated when silver breaks $100 an ounce.
Well, you've taken a lot of slack. I said it before, for being so vocal sometimes in the industry. Would you like to see more silver miners step up, Keith?
I would. It's not as easy as you may think. So, and a lot of silver miners, they're good guys. I know many of them. And I could call many of them friends. Unfortunately, with conferences, we don't get to see each other anymore.
Yeah.
It's really too bad, because we need these kinds of active discussions going on within the senior levels of the mining community, and that hasn't happened the last year. So it's hard to for me to have any more influence, I suppose, than I currently do. But a lot of mining companies, they produce concentrates. They don't produce a dory bar. Without getting too technical, we produce dory bars, so it's easy for us to hold back metal. We could just not ship it. We could just put it in a corner somewhere, and it's not going. It just sits there. But a concentrate, you have deals with smelters in China or Korea or Japan or elsewhere, maybe in Europe, and you have to, under contract, ship your concentrates. And if you tell the smelter in Korea saying, "Oh, by the way, put the silver in the corner, we don't want to sell it," the smelter's going to say, "Forget it. That's not the deal. Because we need it for our televisions, we need it for our computers." And so the mining company has zero control over what happens to the metal in that concentrate.
Keith, just to wrap, your fourth quarter results just came in. What would you want to highlight from them?
I just think the year ended on such a positive note. After such a difficult Q2, with all the shutdowns and having to turn off these industrial complexes, it's not a simple process to do. And then getting them restarted again, and then dealing with all the vulnerable workers and all. We had to set up a variety of labs, actually two big labs, one in the state of Durango, one in Hermosillo, where we've done something in the order of about 100,000 COVID tests since last summer, and we're continually doing that. We're supplying triple the medical staff that we did prior to the outbreak, and with combining that with the increase in throughput and increased production, I think our team just did such a fantastic job, and they all deserve a lot of praise.
Continued success, Keith, and thank you again for giving us this exclusive here on StansberryInvestor.com. I appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure, Danielle. Thank you.
All right. First interview following the silver squeeze. Keith Neumeyer, CEO of First Majestic. Thank you for watching. We'll have much more for you on StansberryInvestor.com. In the meantime, share us where you watch us. We're on all the social media platforms. Thank you for watching. I'm Daniela Cambone.